Hi there, I'm Spellweaver and this is the release announcement for the new update. In case you're new here and wondering what you're looking at right now, let me quickly introduce myself. I am the developer of Sulphur Memories Alchemist, a roguelike where you explore, gather components and make potions to overcome challenges in the world. Some people have compared it to Skyrim and Minecraft. It's currently available for purchase on itch.io and Steam, and we also have a Discord server open. Now to the actual update. This one is less about adding things to the game and more about making the game better. As I mentioned before, that's how I prefer to structure my development. An update focused mostly on content, then an update focused mostly on fixes and quality of life. There is of course also side stuff thrown in with the rest, bug fixes, minor additions and balance tweaks, among other things. For updates like this, a lot of changes are based on player feedback. Which is to say, if you ever have any, please share it on the Steam forums, in Discord or anywhere else you can reach me. Now let's have a look. This one is exactly the kind of feature that I meant just now, UI scaling. Originally, I designed the game mostly for the screen size I was familiar with, Full HD. That's not to say it wasn't working for other sizes, be they larger or smaller. It was absolutely capable of adjusting. However, for larger screens in particular, the way my UI adjusted was by repositioning elements without increasing the size of the text or icons, making them proportionally smaller. This update introduces the UI scaling option. The examples you're seeing right now are on my 2560 by 1600 screen. The setting changes the size of fonts and all the UI elements, but not in-game graphics. How impactful it will be for any given player will probably vary a lot. But personally, I never expected it to make a difference, yet now I wonder how I ever played with the old scale. I have to admit, this change alone took a very long time to implement. Simply put, if I wanted it to look decent, just stretching the image wouldn't have been enough. Related to the previous change, though not part of it, is how the game displays the research tree. It used to look very awkward on larger screens, stuck to the bottom with a lot of empty space above. That was due to me not wanting to stretch the tree too much, so that icons don't get blurry. However, nothing was stopping me from spreading the icons around the screen without stretching the images themselves, which is how we got the new look. Now, hotbar. I know at least a few of you have been waiting for this in particular. As the game developed, the number of useful items in it kept growing, and since at least the Steam release, people, including myself, were struggling to fit all they needed onto the hotbar. Now, with two hotbars, you have twice the space. Personally, I prefer placing items useful for combat and healing on one bar, and items for specific circumstances on the other. Of course, it's not a panacea. If you wanted to stick your whole inventory onto the hotbar, you won't be able to. Then again, I don't think there would be much point in doing so. Assuming normal gameplay though, if two hotbars turn out not enough, I'll do something about it. Finally, the danger warnings. This too was requested by at least one player, and I know that many roguelikes incorporate something of that kind. These warnings trigger under either of two conditions. Either you take too much damage in a single turn, or your health drops below a certain threshold after taking damage. The screen then flashes red, a heartbeat sound plays, and your inputs are frozen for a short time. This can help, for example, if you were pressing movement buttons quickly and stepped into a gargoyle room, or if you didn't realize that the poison you had been inflicted with was strong enough to kill you. When I tested this feature, even though it felt helpful, it also managed to annoy me a couple of times. That is why it's disabled by default, though you can easily change it if you like. Aside from quality of life, a lot of feedback I received was about balance regarding the areas from the previous update, so the second largest part of this update has to do with balance changes. First of all, these men here, for such a small area, managed to be both unfairly rewarding and, in specific circumstances, fairly difficult. To avoid spoilers, one of the puzzles happened to stump literally everyone that I asked. So that got changed. The idea of the puzzle is the same, but the clues are much clearer. And on the other hand, since the area itself is so short and easy, I reduced the reward at the end by a lot. That's not to say that I have anything against short and easy areas. They are fine, especially in the early game, like this one. Another area, Burnt Village, turned out to be a hotspot for bugs, but that's for a later section. Bugs aside, I made the place not exactly easier, but less punishing. Now the surface area has some torches, for new players that might go in unprepared. As you can't leave the caves easily, there was a real chance that they would go in and not let them realize that they need a torch. Also, the bear traps now deal less immediate damage but cause bleeding. The total amount of damage is the same, but the player will have more time to remedy the mistake made. There is another early area that I felt stood out as unnecessarily deadly, and that's the Crimson Ivy variant of the abandoned farm. This is what it looks like, though I would presume if you played the game, you're already having flashbacks. I nerfed the Ivy, somewhat. Firstly, I reduced the chance that it would drain life on attack from 50% to 30%. And the other change is that now, if you burn in, Ivy cannot bind you. It makes thematic sense, since Ivy burns easily. Makes it so that when you're panicking and burning everything to escape, you get a couple of extra turns, and funniest of all, you can now eat red pepper to escape the vines. I'm not sure if it's funny enough to leave it in, but for now I'm keeping it. It's also cool that it gives what used to be a joke option any use. Now to some items. I added potions of steam and lingering fireball potions in the latest release, and they felt quite underused. They have their uses, but it seems the difference in efficiency was not enough to bother. I made the potion of steam cheaper to craft so that it could compete with Rime potion, and made the lingering fireball delay before explosion one turn longer, so that you can stack more of them in place before they explode. And if you want the explosion immediately, you can always trigger it yourself. Not to forget another underused item, verdant sandals. I've already buffed them once, and I'm doing it again. Before, I made it so that when you walk through nettle or rose bushes, they apply a regenerative effect that can restore your vitality up to 10, and now I'm increasing it to 15. That has to be worth using. Now, I regret to inform you that you all missed an opportunity to do something really stupid. That is, to burn Ricardo's tavern, despite the area not allowing you to throw potions. I will show you how it could be done before, but you know, it was really stupid, so I'm not allowing that anymore. I don't even know how I could account for that with anything but a game over screen. This is going to be a short section. As I said, the update wasn't really about adding stuff. Here are some new things you can fish out: snails from the forest pond, squids from the sea, and a new food item to find or buy, honeyed peaches. Believe it or not, I have some plans for this one. So, it turns out there were a few bugs. Some new, some existed for years, most weren't game breaking thankfully, but still. As I mentioned before, the burnt village happened to have a few. It was possible for the well to not appear on the map at all, making the area impossible to complete. But worse than that, sometimes caves underneath would generate impassable terrain, causing the players to get stuck. I know that at least a couple of players reached me about this bug. To them I explained how to fix it using cheats, but I'm afraid someone might have experienced it without me even knowing. And I am truly sorry. I can promise that this bug won't happen again, though I make no such promises about other bugs. Another interesting bug was how, under extremely specific circumstances, leeches could leave the water. It's a kind of bug that's more confusing than really dangerous, but nevertheless, thank you for helping me discover it. I don't think I would ever stumble upon it myself. Some other things include grammar and sprite errors, but those aren't very interesting to talk about. Hopefully the game will be better without them. So, it took me some time to release it, hasn't it? I feel like I'm saying this almost every time. Of course I have my reasons, but I really don't want to make excuses. It is what it is. What I do want to say is that I am not abandoning the game, not burnt out, and nothing like that. I will continue my work, and I have great things planned. The next update will have more additions to content, probably continuation of the main quest. See you next time. Have fun with the game.